Hello there. I want to do a video. This is for a subscriber and a viewer of mine who's contacted me on a couple of my videos and asked advice. It's about coarse beards and things of that nature. My beard is not particularly coarse, but it's not particularly fine either. It's sort of an average type deal. But he has said to me a couple of times, I'm watching my technique. I'm trying to emulate your technique. I've tried different blades and different razors and all of that. And he says he can't really get a comfortable shave, that it's always tuggy, and he's having problems with that. Um, so I want to kind of address that and try to maybe help him and anyone else out there that might be having an issue like this. But the first thing that I would say is that I can't really take you by the hand and show you how to fix this. Um, Neither can anybody else. Your beard is unique to your face and your genetics and everything else. Okay? And this is a journey that you're going to have to go on. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in closing, hopefully, if I remember to. But notoriously, I can get off track. But the first thing that I would say to you, if you're experiencing tugging and stuff like that, excuse me, the allergy season is here and it's slamming me pretty hard. Is look at your lather. And I know everybody looks at razors, they look at blades, they look at technique and all of that, but the very first place you should be looking at is the hydration of your lather and the hydration of your beard. Okay? I would suggest you get a scuttle so that you can have warm lather. That will help to soften the beard. Use warm water on your face. But also, most people, when they lather a soap, particularly if you're using a DE, okay? I'm just saying, okay? This is really common to DE users. Straight razor users start out like that, and then they realize that that's not quite how it works. Okay, but a DE user wants a really fluffy, beautiful looking lather. Okay, they think that protects their face. Okay, and I'm not getting into a debate about cushion and all of that, which is, anyway, I'm not getting into that debate. But the most protective thing about your lather is going to be how much water you have in it. Because the amount of water that you have in your lather is directly proportional. The slickness of your lather is directly proportionate to the amount of water, or the water ratio, the moisture ratio in your lather. So a big, beautiful, fluffy lather, if the soap inherently has a lot of slickness, you might be good. But if you get a soap that doesn't really have a whole lot of slickness to it, and you don't put enough water in it, it can look wonderful. But it doesn't have enough moisture in it to bring out whatever natural slickness is in that lather. I can take a straight razor, and that's another thing. Listen, I know you probably don't want to switch to a straight razor. That is a whole new set of learning curve and all of that, okay? But I can take a straight razor, and most people that I've heard of and know can take a straight razor and shave a month's worth of beard off lickety-split. A straight razor doesn't, if it's properly honed, and there's not a beard on this planet that's going to slow that thing down, flat out. Now, if it's not honed right, it doesn't matter. But I can use even a straight razor, and if the lather does not have enough moisture in it to give it the slickness, to bring the slickness out of it that's inherent in that lather, the blade will skip and jump and tug and grab. And so the very first thing that I would say to you is stop looking at your lather as wanting to have something that's beautiful on your face. I understand that that is kind of an iconic way to see lather, particularly in the DE world. But what you want is you want a lather that's almost so thin you can see through it. You want to put as much water in your lather as the lather will handle before it starts fading out. Okay? You want a lot of water because whatever lather, whatever slickness your lather, that's what protects your face. The slickness is what allows the razor to glide across your face, and it will affect how that blade feels on your face. So the number one thing that I would say to you is start pushing the water ratios in your lather and see just how far you can push your lather. I do it all the time. I'm sure there's some videos on here. I've got several hundred, so I can't go back and look to find one, okay? But I'm sure that there are plenty of videos here of me pushing a lather too far with water, and then it's so thin that it starts to fade and stuff like that. I do that on purpose because I want to understand the soap that I'm using well enough to know exactly how much water I can push into that soap before it can't take anymore. And I kind of try to gravitate toward lathers and soaps that will take a lot of flipping water before they crumble. Okay? Because I understand the very powerful importance that slickness plays in the way your shave feels. So the very first thing that I would tell you is use warm water on your face. Maybe take a shower, a hot shower, and let your face sit in that steam for a while before you even begin to shave. Okay? Try out a scuttle to add heat to your lather. Okay? Even if all you're doing is putting your brush in it, even if you like to face lather, you know, put hot water on your soap, let it set a minute or so. Put your brush in a hot scuttle and let it get good and warm. Anything that you can do to hydrate your lather and to hydrate your beard and soften it is going to help for a comfortable shave. So, you know, when I first started with straight razors, I spent 20 minutes to half an hour with hot towels and stuff like that. And that was a wonderful experience, but I don't recommend it because nobody's got 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes to play with a towel, you know, before they even start a shave. But there are things you can do to make sure that your beard is well hydrated and your lather is well hydrated before you start to shave. So that's the very first thing that I would mention is push your lathers and find out how much water they'll take and note the difference in slickness that brings out. And if you've got lather that you like, but you can pump a ton of water in it and it doesn't really get very slick, find something else to use. That's my recommendation on that. So, for what it's worth. And another thing is, you know, I know I've mentioned blades before, and the thing of it is I can't really say, well, try these blades, or try, I mean, I think I recommended feathers, and another type of, maybe the pole silvers, I'm not sure, in conversation with you, but you have to understand that one person's sharp, really sharp, is another person's harsh. And one person's smooth is another person's tuggy. Okay? Your face and my face and everybody else's face is completely different. And the blades that you will prefer are going to be unique to you. Okay? You might have something in common with other shavers, blade-wise, but you're never going to know that until you try. And the thing of it is, blades are probably the cheapest thing when it comes to shaving traditionally. Okay. they don't cost very much at all, even the expensive ones. So what I would recommend to you, I know you did it before, most of us did. Go back and revisit some of the blades you didn't like because your face changes, but also look and see what's out there that you've not ever tried before. It doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter what review you read or what review you saw on the blades where the guy says, well, these things are junk or they're the best thing since sliced bread or what. None of that matters to you and your face. Flat out. So try. If there's a blade out there you haven't tried, go get it and try it. You know, don't buy like sample packs. Make your own sample packs. Spend the money to look for different blades because you might end up finding that there's a blade out there. Well, more than likely you will end up finding that there is a blade out there that you prefer over the others. And there's a good chance that you can find a blade that will help in the problem that you're having, but you got to go look for it. It's kind of like what I said in the very beginning. This is your journey, and you're going to have to take it. You're going to have to step one foot after the other and go through this methodically, everything that you can possibly think of, and if you think you've done it all, go back and look at what you've done and see if there's any gaps. Anything you could do differently, that kind of deal. But now, while we're on the subject of blades, I want to talk about razor aggression and blades in particular. There are two things that make a DE razor aggressive. That's blade extension, or how far the blade sticks out from the top cap, okay, and blade gap, which is how far the blade, how much space between the bottom of the blade and the top of the safety bar. Okay, now if we look, I want to show you a few things. This is my Gillette Super Adjustable Black Beauty. This is on minimum setting. Okay, there's the blade extension, how far it projects out. This razor works on blade gap. It's an adjustable razor. This is the mildest setting, setting number 1. Now, if you will, hopefully, I don't know if you can see, but I'm trying to show. You look at the space between the blade and the top of the cap, the underneath, the bottom part of the top cap. Okay. Now, as I move this up in aggression, there's all the way to 9. You see the difference between that gap between the bottom of the blade and the top of that safety bar. There's all the way up. There's all the way down. See how much closer that blade is to that safety bar? See how much further away it is now? That is how this razor is made to be more or less aggressive according to the settings, okay? Now when we look at, this is the much vaunted and famous Mueller R41. You see the blade extension on that? All right, but this is a Maggard, I believe, cap. I think this is kind of one of their more aggressive ones. But if you look, do you see the difference in the blade extension? This Maggard's got a lot more blades sticking out, right? But this razor is much more aggressive. And the reason is it might not have as much blade extension, but if you look at the gap, this has much more gap between the bottom of the blade and the top of the safety bar, okay? So there are different ways in which a razor can be made aggressive. All right. And the thing of it is that's just like anything else in shaving. Uh, you might find that a razor that has more blade extension feels better than one that has more blade gap. Okay. Another thing that I would say about that before I go on about that, because there's another factor to that needs to be considered, is that traditional shaving, I recommend like a Super Speed or a Tech type of razor, or a Mueller or R89, what is it, DE89, or some kind of mild razor. And the reason that I say that is, look, traditional shaving is not about taking a razor and running it across a 3-day beard and having the skin behind that blade be absolutely bare. This is not the same thing as regular shaving. Traditional shaving is about beard reduction and at least a couple of different passes. Okay, you're not looking for your beard to be completely clean on a one-pass shave. You want to at least have to do a second pass. You want blade reduction. It's how these razors work. Okay, so I always recommend a milder razor to start with, because I think there's a lot of problem with people where they're chewing up their face unnecessarily with an aggressive razor when they could take a milder razor and do a couple of passes to get a really nice clean shave, and it would be easier on their face. That's my opinion. But when we look at aggression in razors and look at blades, the blade gap is really important. And the reason for that is that a DE, let me get the razor blade out of my Super Speed, my Super Adjustable. That thing's got a crap load of flex in it, don't it? Okay, you can even take these and bend them like this until you snap them in half and use them in DEs. Not DEs, shave ads. Okay. Well, if you have a razor that's really aggressive, because a lot of guys they're running, especially if they have a coarse beard, they're looking for a super aggressive razor because they think that that's going to fix their problem, but it might actually be creating part of your problem. Because the thing of it is the way that blade flexes, when the blade is laying fairly close to this guard, it's supported in both ends. So it stiffens that blade somewhat. Okay? If I have more of a gap, then it's stiffened here, but it's not here, and it can allow that blade, the edge of that blade to flex, to go, okay? That's called blade flex. And that, depending on whether or not you are sensitive to that, and I would bet with the problems that you've told me you've had after you've tried every flipping thing you can think of, that you're probably sensitive to blade flex. Okay? If you're sensitive to blade flex, that right there can make it where it doesn't matter what kind of soap you use, how well hydrated your beard is, what kind of razor blade you use, or anything of that sort. If your blade is flexing too much, it's going to feel like it's tugging and carrying on and all kinds of stuff, because basically it is. The edge is not being presented to that hair follicle. The hair, your hair has barbs on it. It has like leaves, almost like a pine cone, okay? And when the blade catches, the way it cuts is it catches in those little leaves, in those sections there, and that's how it cuts through your beard. So you want the edge of the razor blade to hit that straight and true, right? If you've got blade flex and the blade is doing one of these numbers, I can't do it with that hand, but if it's doing one of these numbers, it's not straight, but it's, okay, then it's not hitting that gap straight, it's hitting it like this. Okay, so that's something to consider as well. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but try a milder razor. See what that does. Try 3 passes instead of 2. Okay, and all the other stuff that I've been saying. Okay, one of the other things that I would tell you is you should gravitate towards soaps that are slick. I could name off some soaps, but there's a ton of soaps out there. Monica Gillum Vanillé soaps are slick as snot. Sterling soaps, but generally are slick as snot. PAA, from the reputation I have one of Douglas's soaps. I would like to have a bunch more of his soaps, at least to try a bunch more of them, just simply because what I've got of his is fantastic. Okay, but I can't justify buying any more soap. I'll be dead before I use all the soap that I've got. So I just can't unless I'm doing a review or something like that. I don't do new soaps anymore. You know, but his have a reputation of being really slick. But now don't, limit yourself. Explore. Look around, go on the forums, go on the Facebook pages, ask what the slick soaps are, the slick creams are. I don't know where you're located, but I think you're overseas. If you can get Gata cream, that's some slick stuff. Okay, all kinds. Spike is slick as all get out. There's all kinds of soaps, but what I would tell you is, look, in the end, this is your journey. You're going to have to do everything you can to try everything that you can think of. And what I would say is, you're not the only one that's been through this, okay? There are people, I told you before, there are people that have found a solution. And what I would tell you is that if you can, talk to your dad or your uncle or your grandfather, or any of the males in your family that have the same type, because most of the time that your hair type and stuff, your beard type and stuff is going to run in your family. Look at these people, talk to them, and get the benefit of their experience. They may not do traditional shaving, but you can learn, okay? If you stop learning, if you think that nobody can, and I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying, if you think that you can't learn anything from anybody, if there's a person out there you think, well, I cannot learn anything from that person, you're wrong. If you watch a person enough, talk to a person enough, whatnot, there's always something you can learn from pretty much anybody out there. But you're going to have to grab a hold of this, and you're going to have to walk on this journey and find what works for you, because I can't. Well, only thing that I've been able to do is kind of give you the benefit of my understanding of how the double-edged razors work. One last thing that I would say, talking about blade flex, try single-edge razors. Either the modern type that takes like the old, the old ever-ready type that takes the blades that look like box cutters. Just make sure that you get a shaving blade from a decent vendor. Or the newer types, like, for instance, the Razor-Rock Hawk, okay, that takes the longer, more modern type blade. These blades are stiffer naturally, and they're less prone to blade flex, and you might find that those razors serve you better for your beard type. So that's something to explore as well. You need to check that out and see. But it's your journey. You're going to have to take it. You're going to have to walk this road until you find what works for you. But you can. Understand that. Uh, you can find what works for you and get lovely shaves, but you're going to have to put more effort into it than somebody like me or someone that might have a lighter beard or whatnot. But it's worth the effort. I hope that I helped you. Bless you. I'll talk to you later.